Welcome to our story today. Millionaire hires a maid as wife for 9 days with shock at the street. Join us in this intriguing story where a wealthy millionaire decides to hire a maid as his wife for a mere 9 days. This unusual arrangement begins as a simple business transaction, but quickly spirals into a series of unexpected events. Capturing the attention of many, this unconventional agreement is nothing short of a whirlwind adventure. As the story unfolds, we delve into the lives of two individuals from different worlds. On one hand, we have the millionaire, accustomed to a life of luxury and indulgence. On the other, there's the maid, whose life has been marked by hard work and modesty. Their worlds collide in a way neither could have anticipated, leading to moments of laughter, drama, and heartfelt revelations. What seems like a straightforward deal soon becomes a complex journey of discovery. Both the millionaire and the maid find themselves confronting their preconceived notions about life, love, and happiness. Through a series of humorous and touching moments, they begin to understand each other, breaking down the barriers of their contrasting lifestyles. The streets are abuzz with curiosity and disbelief as this strikingly odd couple captures the public's imagination. Friends, family, and onlookers are left in shock and awe, witnessing firsthand the evolving dynamics between the two. Rumors spread like wildfire, adding another layer of intrigue to this already captivating tale. As the days slip by, the line between employer and employee blurs, revealing a deeper connection that neither expected. The journey challenges the millionaire's perspective, teaching him invaluable lessons about life and humility. Meanwhile, the maid discovers newfound confidence and self-worth, realizing her value beyond societal roles. Inform us if you are enthusiastic about this narrative. If you are, press 1 if you found the video to be enjoyable. If this is not the case, press 0. Your comments are a great source of motivation for me to collect more stories that are uplifting and meaningful.
Just imagine, Ricardo, heir to a billionaire business empire, living life at the highest level of comfort and freedom. Sports cars, luxurious mansions, private jet trips, the life that many dream of. He could have anything money could buy, but there was something he valued above all else: his independence. Commitment? No way. Ricardo was the type of man who ran from any strings attached, preferring the fleeting company of beautiful women and the thrill of closing big deals. However, fate, or rather Ricardo's grandmother, had other plans. Donna Ophelia, a strong-willed matriarch with unwavering beliefs, left quite a surprise in her will. To inherit the family fortune, Ricardo would have to marry within 9 days. Yes, you heard right, 9 days. It was as if Donna Ophelia, even after death, wanted to teach her grandson one last lesson about the importance of love and family. The news hit Ricardo like a bombshell. Get married? Him? And in less than 10 days? Impossible. It was like asking a fish to climb a tree. But Donna Ophelia's will was irrevocable, and the family lawyer made that very clear. Ricardo found himself between a rock and a hard place. Give up his freedom and get married in a hurry, or lose everything he's ever had. Time was running out, and the pressure mounted with every tick of the clock. Ricardo knew he had to act fast, but how to find a bride in record time? An arranged marriage with some socialite looking for status? Or a cold, calculated deal with a stranger? None of the options seemed appealing to Ricardo, who had always been averse to conventional relationships. While thinking about a solution, Ricardo found himself remembering his grandmother's words. You don't find true love, it finds you. Would it be possible to find love in just 9 days? Or would this be an impossible mission even for a billionaire like him? The answer, my dear listener, only time will tell. 9 days. That was the time Ricardo had to find a solution to his marital problem. 9 days to find a woman willing to marry him, a complete stranger, and embark on a farce that could change their lives forever. The task seemed impossible, but Ricardo was not a man to give up easily. He started by considering the traditional options: a discreet ad in an elite newspaper, a visit to an exclusive matchmaking agency, or even appealing to the contacts of his personal assistant, Anya, who always had a trick up her sleeve. However, each of these alternatives presented its own challenges. Finding someone compatible, trustworthy, and willing to keep up the charade in such a short time seemed like an impossible mission. It was then that, in a moment of inspiration, Ricardo had an unusual idea. Hire a wife of convenience. Yes, a woman who would agree to marry him for a set period, fulfilling the requirements of the will and securing the inheritance. In return, she would receive generous financial compensation. It seemed like the perfect solution, a mutually beneficial agreement without emotional involvement. But where to find a suitable candidate for this role? Ricardo imagined that he would have to resort to agencies specializing in discreet services, places where confidentiality was the currency of exchange. He started his search online, browsing the depths of the internet, where anonymity reigned and the most unusual desires could be fulfilled. While searching websites and obscure forums, Ricardo came across an ad that caught his attention. Actress available for various jobs, absolute discretion. Could this be the solution to his problems? An actress could play the role of wife perfectly, convincing everyone with her performance. Ricardo decided to contact the advertiser, setting up a meeting in a discreet location to discuss the terms of the agreement. Little did he know that this meeting would lead him to a quick-witted and independent waitress who would change his life in a way he could never have imagined. In the midst of the chaos of his search for a rented bride, Ricardo decided to take a break to clear his head. He needed coffee, strong and bitter like his thoughts. He called Anya, his personal assistant, and asked her to reserve a table at a discreet cafe, away from the prying eyes of the press and paparazzi. Upon arriving at the place, a charming cafe with outdoor tables and a bohemian air, Ricardo was led to a table in the corner, perfect for observing the movement without being noticed. While waiting for his order, his eyes turned to a waitress who served the tables with contagious energy. She moved with grace and lightness, smiling at customers and taking orders with a pen that seemed to dance in her hands. Helena, the waitress, was the personification of joy and vitality. Her brown hair was tied in a casual bun, a few rebellious strands falling over her delicate face. Her eyes, the color of honey, shone with an inner light that illuminated the environment around her. Ricardo found himself inexplicably drawn to her radiant aura, a spark of curiosity igniting within him. When Helena approached to take his order, Ricardo felt a twinge of nervousness, something unusual for such a confident man. "An espresso, please," he requested, his voice coming out more hoarse than usual. Helena smiled, writing down the order in her notepad. "Anything else, sir?" she asked, her eyes meeting his for a brief moment. At that moment, a bold and completely crazy idea took hold of Ricardo. What if he proposed to this waitress, a complete stranger, to marry him? He knew it was absurd, but something about Helena's energy made him believe that she could be the right person for this madness. Taking a deep breath, Ricardo launched into his unusual proposal. "Miss, excuse my direct approach, but I need to get married in 9 days, and I'm willing to pay you a good amount to pretend to be my wife." Helena's reaction was a mixture of surprise, disbelief, and a hint of amusement. She looked at Ricardo as if he were crazy, but something in her eyes said she was at least curious to hear the rest of the story. Ricardo's proposal hung in the air like a helium balloon about to escape. Helena, with coffee still in hand, faced the man in front of her, trying to process the avalanche of information. Get married? To him? In 9 days? It seemed crazy, but his eyes conveyed an unexpected sincerity. Helena's mind raced. On the one hand, the offer was tempting. Her family's restaurant, Helena's Corner, a legacy from her grandfather, was on the verge of bankruptcy. Debts piled up like stacks of pancakes on a busy Sunday, and the overdue rent haunted her dreams like a recurring nightmare. The amount offered by Ricardo would be the lifeline they so desperately needed. On the other hand, marrying a stranger, a billionaire with a reputation as a playboy, was a leap of faith. What if he was a maniac? Or worse, a boring stick in the mud? The stories circulating in the gossip magazines were not encouraging. But Helena had always been a woman of calculated risks, used to dealing with unusual situations. After all, growing up in a restaurant was a daily adventure, with eccentric customers, unlikely orders, and last-minute culinary challenges. While Helena pondered the pros and cons, Ricardo watched every change in her expression, anxious for an answer. He knew his proposal was absurd, but something told him that Helena was not an ordinary woman. She had a sparkle in her eyes, a determination that fascinated him. Finally, Helena made her decision. 9 days, right? She asked, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. Ricardo nodded, surprised by the speed of her response. And what exactly would I have to do? She continued, her eyes shining with a mixture of curiosity and daring. Ricardo explained the details of the agreement, the need to convince his family and the lawyer that the marriage was real. Helena listened carefully, analyzing every word. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but the reward was worth it. I accept, she said, extending her hand to Ricardo. A deal sealed with a handshake, a marriage of convenience that promised to be anything but conventional. With Helena's yes, Operation Lightning Wedding was put into action. Ricardo, with his endless list of contacts, managed to organize a wedding in record time. In just 2 days, a simple but elegant ceremony was prepared in a picturesque chapel overlooking the sea. Helena's dress, a classic model with a modern twist, was handpicked by Anya, Ricardo's faithful assistant, who became a kind of fairy godmother in this whole story. The big day arrived, and Helena, still incredulous at the situation, walked to the altar with a nervous smile on her lips. Ricardo, in his impeccable suit, awaited her with a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. The ceremony was quick and emotional, with the exchange of rings and improvised vows that sounded surprisingly convincing. In the end, a quick, awkward peck sealed the unexpected union. After the wedding, Ricardo and Helena embarked on an unusual honeymoon. Forget the paradise beaches and luxury hotels. Ricardo's grandmother, in her eccentric wisdom, had left specific instructions for the trip. An adventure in a motorhome, traveling alternative routes and exploring remote places. Donna Ophelia wanted to ensure that the couple had time to truly get to know each other, away from the spotlight and the hustle and bustle of the city. And so, the unlikely couple set off on their honeymoon journey. The motorhome, affectionately nicknamed Turtle by Helena, became the scene of comical and embarrassing situations. Imagine Ricardo, the billionaire accustomed to luxury, trying to maneuver the vehicle on narrow, bumpy roads, or Helena, the fearless waitress, teaching Ricardo how to make a sandwich in the cramped kitchen of the motorhome. The honeymoon turned into a true test of adaptation for the couple. They had to deal with mechanical problems, makeshift campsites, cold showers, and the forced intimacy of a confined space. But amidst the mishaps and laughter, something unexpected began to happen. Ricardo and Helena were getting to know each other for real, discovering qualities in each other that they never imagined. Ricardo and Helena's honeymoon was like one of those survival reality shows, only with fewer bugs and more champagne, thanks to Ricardo's unlimited credit card, of course. But in addition to dealing with the challenges of life on the road, they had an important mission: to convince everyone that the marriage was real. The first test was the video call with the family lawyer, Dr. Augusto, a stern and suspicious man with a hawk-like gaze and a mustache that seemed to have a life of its own. Ricardo and Helena had to stage a happy honeymoon couple, exchanging forced caresses, rehearsed laughter, and vows of love worthy of an Oscar. Their performance was so convincing, or Dr. Augusto was too busy admiring the scenery in the background, that he ended the call satisfied, for now. But the challenge didn't end there. Throughout the trip, they encountered several obstacles that tested their improvisation skills. Once, in a small roadside restaurant, they were approached by a gossipy lady who insisted on knowing all about the couple's love story. Helena, with her spontaneous manner, invented a romantic and cliché-filled narrative on the spot, which left the lady emotional and teary-eyed. On another occasion, at a local festival, they participated in a dance contest for couples. Ricardo, with his 2 left feet, stepped on Helena's foot so many times that she almost gave up on the competition. But in the end, with a lot of persistence and some laughter, they managed to get applause from the audience and even take home a trophy for most fun couple. With each challenge overcome, Ricardo and Helena felt closer and more connected. The charade of marriage was becoming more and more real, and feelings between them began to blossom amidst the comical and embarrassing situations. As the turtle devoured miles of asphalt, Ricardo and Helena found themselves increasingly involved in a dance of contradictory feelings. The forced coexistence inside the motorhome, sharing the cramped space, improvised meals, and long hours on the road, created an unexpected intimacy. Ricardo, accustomed to a life of superficiality and fleeting relationships, was surprised by Helena's simplicity and authenticity. She didn't care about his fortune, his status, or his fame. She treated him like an ordinary man, with flaws and qualities, without hiding her opinions and emotions. He found himself increasingly interested in her thoughts, her stories, her dreams. Helena, in turn, discovered in Ricardo a man very different from the image of an arrogant playboy that the media portrayed. He was intelligent, funny, and had a sensitive side that he rarely showed to the world. She felt comfortable by his side, able to be herself, without fear or inhibitions. With each passing day, the attraction between them became stronger, undeniable. The shared experiences during the trip created invisible bonds between them. They had fun with the unusual situations, supported each other in difficult moments, and shared secrets under the starry sky. A simple look, an accidental touch, a knowing smile, small gestures that spoke more than 1,000 words. On a cold night, camped in a clearing in the middle of the forest, Ricardo and Helena sat by the campfire, watching the flames dance in the dark. The silence between them was comfortable, broken only by the crackling of the wood and the chirping of crickets. Ricardo turned to Helena, his eyes reflecting the glow of the fire. "You know, Helena," he began, his voice a whisper in the cold air, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm enjoying your company." Helena smiled, her heart beating faster. "Me too, Ricardo," she confessed, her eyes shining like the stars in the sky. At that moment, amidst the simplicity of nature, they allowed themselves to feel the truth that was being born in their hearts. The farce was turning into reality, and love, like a seed planted in fertile ground, was beginning to germinate. Ricardo and Helena's honeymoon was turning into a modern fairy tale, complete with a prince charming, a warrior princess, and a magical motorhome, which sometimes sputtered, but that's okay. However, as in every good story, a villain was about to enter the scene to spice things up. Bernardo, Helena's opportunistic ex-boyfriend, was the kind of guy who made you wonder how someone so charming could be so despicable. He had an easy smile, seductive eyes, and a sharp tongue, but behind the facade hid an empty heart and boundless ambition. He and Helena had been involved in the past, but she soon realized that he was more interested in her money than in her feelings. Bernardo reappeared in Helena's life like a ghost from the past, just when she was starting to be happy with Ricardo. He had found out about the marriage and, driven by greed, decided it was time to reappear and take advantage of the situation. He called Helena, feigning concern and wanting to know how she was doing. But Helena, already burned by his lies, didn't fall for his game. Bernardo, however, was not a man to give up easily. He knew Helena was in a vulnerable situation, married to a billionaire for convenience. He saw an opportunity to get close to her again, seduce her with his empty promises, and convince her to run away with him, taking some of Ricardo's fortune with her. He devised a Machiavellian plan to sabotage the marriage and expose the farce, creating a crisis that would separate Helena from Ricardo and leave her vulnerable to his charms. What Bernardo didn't know was that Ricardo and Helena were developing real feelings for each other, and that together, they would be able to overcome any obstacle, including the traps of an unscrupulous ex-boyfriend. Bernardo, with his used car salesman's smooth talk and the subtlety of an elephant in a china shop, decided to put his plan into action. He approached Helena during a stop in a picturesque town, where Ricardo had gone to fix a mechanical problem with the turtle. Helena, enjoying her parole, strolled through the main square, admiring the local architecture and savoring a strawberry ice cream. Bernardo appeared like one of those cartoon characters that sprout from the ground, with a cynical smile and a bouquet of red roses, probably bought at the nearest gas station. "Helena, what a surprise to find you here," he exclaimed, with a fake expression of astonishment. Helena, however, was not fooled by his theatrics. "Bernardo, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice laden with suspicion. Ignoring Helena's cold tone, Bernardo began his seductive speech, full of empty compliments and false promises. "You're even more beautiful, Helena," he said, with a look that tried to be penetrating. "I never forgot you. I always knew we were meant to be together." Helena rolled her eyes, tired of his cheap pickup lines. "Bernardo, we broke up a long time ago. I'm married now," she reaffirmed, showing the ring on her finger. But Bernardo didn't give up. He began to insinuate that he knew about the agreement between Helena and Ricardo, claiming that she was being used by the billionaire. "He just wants your money, Helena," he argued, with a tone of false concern. "Run away with me. We can be happy together, away from this farce." He painted an idyllic picture of a life of luxury and adventure, with exotic trips and unlimited shopping sprees. Helena, for a moment, felt tempted. Bernardo's offer seemed like an escape valve from this complicated situation. But then, she remembered the genuine moments she had shared with Ricardo, the smiles, the confidences, the connection they were building. She realized that Bernardo offered only an illusion, a superficial life based on appearances and lies. With firmness, Helena rejected Bernardo's proposal. "I don't believe you," she said, her voice full of conviction. "I trust Ricardo, and I'm happy with him." Bernardo, frustrated by the rejection, tried to insist, but Helena stood firm. She turned her back on him and returned to the turtle, eager to see Ricardo again and tell him about the unpleasant encounter. While Helena faced the ghost of the past in the form of Bernardo, Ricardo struggled to fix the turtle, which seemed to have developed a personality of its own and decided to act up at that very moment. "Damn it," he grumbled, his hands covered in grease and his forehead furrowed in concentration. "Why do these things never happen when I'm on my private jet?" he wondered with a hint of irony. However, the motorhome's mechanical problems were soon overshadowed by a bigger concern: Helena. Ricardo had tried to call her a few times, but it went straight to voicemail. Where could she have gone? He thought, with a twinge of anxiety in his chest. He knew Helena was an independent woman and capable of taking care of herself, but he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of apprehension. When he finally got in touch with Helena, Ricardo noticed a different tone in her voice, a mixture of annoyance and sadness. She told him about the encounter with Bernardo and the indecent proposals he had made. Ricardo felt a wave of fury wash over him. How dare that cynic harass his wife? He wanted to run back to town and teach the guy a lesson. But besides anger, Ricardo felt something deeper and unexpected: jealousy. He realized that the idea of Helena with another man bothered him much more than it should. He tried to convince himself that it was just a matter of wounded pride. After all, Helena was his wife, even if only on paper. But deep down, he knew there was something more. The conversation with Helena awakened in Ricardo a series of confusing and intense feelings. He found himself questioning his own feelings, his priorities, his whole life. He had always run from commitments, from serious relationships, from any kind of ties. But now, with Helena by his side, he was beginning to see things from a new perspective. Ricardo realized that he cared about Helena in a way he never imagined possible. He wanted to protect her, take care of her, make her happy. He wanted her to be his, for real. And for the first time in his life, Ricardo felt afraid of losing someone. Back in the Turtle, Helena felt like she had just stepped off an emotional roller coaster. The reunion with Bernardo had awakened conflicting feelings in her heart. On the one hand, she felt immense gratitude for Ricardo. He had offered her a lifeline when she needed it most, and he was being a surprisingly pleasant companion on this unusual adventure. On the other hand, Bernardo's poisonous words had planted a seed of doubt in her mind. Was Ricardo really that different from the other rich and powerful men she knew? Was his interest in her genuine, or was he just taking advantage of the situation? The trust Helena had placed in Ricardo now seemed fragile, like a sandcastle threatened by the high tide. As Ricardo drove in silence, Helena watched the landscape pass by the window, lost in her thoughts. She remembered the moments of connection she had shared with Ricardo, the smiles, the conversations, the knowing glances. Was it all a farce? Or was there something real behind this game of pretend? Uncertainty gnawed at Helena's heart, like a termite slowly destroying a solid structure. She wanted to believe in Ricardo. She wanted to surrender to the feelings that were blossoming in her chest. But the fear of being deceived, of being hurt again, prevented her from giving herself completely. Helena felt divided, as if she were at a crossroads, not knowing which way to go. On one side, gratitude and attraction to Ricardo. On the other, distrust and fear of being hurt. She needed to find a way to settle accounts with the past, to free herself from the insecurities that bound her to Bernardo, so she could move on and build a future with Ricardo, if that future was still possible. The tension inside the turtle was palpable, like a charged cloud hanging over their heads. The silence of Ricardo and Helena was broken only by the monotonous hum of the engine and the thoughts swirling in their minds like a hurricane. Ricardo, sensing the growing distance between them, decided to break the silence. "Helena, what's going on?" he asked, his voice revealing genuine concern. Helena, her gaze fixed on the passing landscape, replied in a low tone, "I don't know, Ricardo. I'm confused." Helena's vague answer only served to increase Ricardo's anxiety. Confused about what? About Bernardo? About our agreement? He insisted, feeling a twinge of jealousy as he uttered the other man's name. Helena sighed, finally facing Ricardo. "About everything, Ricardo. About you, about me, about this whole situation." Helena's words opened the floodgates to a heated argument, like a sudden storm on a sunny day. Ricardo, feeling insecure and threatened, let his pride get the better of him. "Are you regretting marrying me? Is that it?" he questioned, his voice tinged with bitterness. Helena, in turn, felt wronged by Ricardo's accusations. "That's not it, Ricardo. But how can I trust you after everything Bernardo told me? How can I be sure you're not using me?" she blurted out, her voice full of hurt. The argument escalated, with accusations and recriminations from both sides. Ricardo revealed his fears of getting attached to someone, of losing his freedom, of being hurt again. Helena, in turn, exposed her insecurities, her difficulty in trusting men, her fear of being abandoned. At the height of the argument, Helena stopped the turtle abruptly on the side of a deserted road. "Enough, Ricardo," she exclaimed, tears in her eyes. "I need some time to think, to sort out my feelings." She got out of the motorhome, walking towards the horizon, leaving Ricardo behind with his turbulent thoughts and a broken heart. Helena, with her heart in pieces, walked aimlessly down the deserted road, tears blurring her vision. The argument with Ricardo had left deep marks on her soul, reopening wounds from the past and fueling her insecurities. She felt lost, not knowing where to go or what to do. Meanwhile, Ricardo remained in the turtle, motionless as a statue, the weight of guilt and regret crushing his chest. He had let his pride and fears get the better of him, hurting the woman he loved with harsh words and unfair accusations. He berated himself for his blindness, for not having seen the depth of his feelings for Helena sooner. The image of Helena leaving, her shoulders slumped and her face bathed in tears, haunted him like a ghost. He knew he had to do something, run after her, apologize, fight for the love that was blossoming between them. But the fear of rejection, of losing Helena forever, paralyzed him. However, love, when true, gives us the strength to face any obstacle. Ricardo took a deep breath, started the engine of the turtle, and set off in search of Helena. He found her sitting by the side of the road, hugging her knees and staring at the horizon with a lost look. Seeing him approach, Helena felt a mixture of emotions: anger, sadness, longing, but above all, relief. Ricardo knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "Helena, forgive me," he begged, his voice choked with emotion. "I was an idiot. I let my fears blind me. I love you, Helena. I truly love you." Ricardo's sincere words touched Helena's heart, melting the barrier of ice that had formed between them. She hugged him tightly, feeling the warmth of his body and the sincerity in his embrace. "I love you too, Ricardo," she confessed, her voice muffled by tears. At that moment, in the vastness of the deserted road, Ricardo and Helena reconnected, stronger and more united than ever. They decided to fight for their love, facing together the threats from Bernardo and any other obstacle that came their way. After all, true love was their greatest fortune, and they were willing to protect it at all costs. With a renewed heart and the certainty that Helena was the woman of his life, Ricardo became a protective lion, willing to defend his beloved from any threat. He would not allow Bernardo or any other despicable being to interfere with their happiness. As soon as Helena told him about the encounter with Bernardo and his indecent proposals, Ricardo wanted to go after the guy and give him a good beating. But he knew that violence was not the solution and that he needed to act intelligently to get rid of this problem once and for all. Ricardo then decided to confront Bernardo, exposing his true intentions and showing that he was not afraid of him. He arranged to meet Bernardo in a discreet bar, away from prying eyes and the tabloid press. Upon arriving at the location, Ricardo found Bernardo sitting in a dark corner, with an arrogant smile on his face. "Bernardo, we need to talk," Ricardo said, his voice firm and his gaze fixed on the other man's. Bernardo laughed, amused by the situation. "Ah, the great Ricardo has come to settle the score? Don't worry, I'm not going to steal your precious toy," he scoffed, referring to Helena. Ricardo ignored the provocation and went straight to the point. "I know your intentions with Helena, Bernardo. I know you want to take advantage of her, extort money from her. But I won't let you do that," he stated, his voice full of conviction. Bernardo tried to defend himself, denying the accusations and accusing Ricardo of being a manipulator who was using Helena for his own ends. But Ricardo was not swayed. He presented evidence of the threatening messages and calls Bernardo had sent to Helena, unmasking his lies and exposing his true face. "It's over, Bernardo," Ricardo declared, with a note of finality in his voice. "Helena wants nothing to do with you. Stay away from her, or you'll regret it." Bernardo, seeing that his plan had failed, got up from the table, furious and humiliated. He gave Ricardo a menacing look and left the bar, disappearing into the night. Ricardo breathed a sigh of relief, feeling the weight of tension leave his shoulders. He had defended Helena and protected their love from the clutches of that opportunist. Now, he could return to Helena with a clear conscience and a heart full of hope. After Ricardo's confrontation with Bernardo, Helena felt a mixture of relief and disappointment. Relief to know that Ricardo was defending and protecting her, but also disappointment at the confirmation that Bernardo was indeed a despicable individual, capable of using and manipulating people for his own benefit. She remembered all the moments she had spent with Bernardo, the empty promises, the lies, and the attempts to control her. She realized how naive she had been to believe his words, to let herself be seduced by his superficial charm. Helena felt a wave of anger and disgust at having been involved with someone like Bernardo. She deserved much better, a true love based on respect, trust, and companionship. And she had found that in Ricardo, a man who, despite his flaws and eccentric life, had shown her the true meaning of love. Determined to finally break free from the clutches of the past, Helena took her cell phone and blocked Bernardo's number, deleting all messages and photos that brought back memories of that toxic relationship. She no longer wanted to have any contact with him. She didn't want him to have any more power over her life. From that moment on, Helena was determined to move forward, focused on her present and her future with Ricardo. She knew there would still be challenges to face, but now she felt stronger and more confident to deal with them. She had Ricardo by her side, and that was all that mattered. While Ricardo and Helena were living their romance in a bubble of love and adventure, the family lawyer, Dr. Augusto, was not entirely convinced of the veracity of the marriage. With his sharp mind and keen eye, he noticed some inconsistencies in the couple's stories, small details that did not fit the happily ever after narrative. Dr. Augusto, a methodical and cautious man, decided to investigate Helena's past, looking for clues that could prove his suspicions. He hired a private detective to delve into the waitress's life, from her childhood to her romantic relationships. He wanted to know everything about Helena, her family, her friends, her jobs, her dreams, her secrets. The detective, a discreet and efficient fellow, began to gather information about Helena, like a puzzle being formed piece by piece. He found out about her family's restaurant, on the verge of bankruptcy, about her jobs as a waitress, and about her troubled relationship with Bernardo. He collected testimonies from people who knew Helena, building a detailed profile of the young woman. Dr. Augusto, analyzing the information brought by the detective, felt his suspicions confirmed. The love story between Helena and Ricardo seemed increasingly unlikely, a well-crafted farce to secure the family inheritance. He then decided to confront the couple, putting them against the wall and demanding explanations. He scheduled a meeting with Ricardo and Helena in his office, a sober and imposing environment, with shelves full of law books and an atmosphere of seriousness. Upon arriving at the place, Ricardo and Helena were greeted by Dr. Augusto with a cold look and an expression of distrust. "Mr. and Mrs. Almeida, I need to ask you some questions about your marriage," he announced, his voice deep and authoritative. Ricardo and Helena exchanged glances, feeling the weight of the situation and the approaching threat. They knew they would have to use all their intelligence and creativity to convince the lawyer of the truth of their love and save their happy ending. Dr. Augusto's office was a place that exuded seriousness and power, with its dark wood-paneled walls and an imposing solid oak desk. Ricardo and Helena, sitting in leather armchairs in front of the lawyer, felt as if they were in court, about to be judged by an implacable jury. Dr. Augusto, with his haughty posture and penetrating gaze, began the interrogation with a series of sharp questions, like a fencer in a duel. "Mr. Almeida, can you explain to me how you fell in love with Helena in such a short time?" he questioned, with a tone of skepticism. Ricardo, looking into the lawyer's eyes, answered sincerely, "Dr. Augusto, I know it seems unlikely, but love does not follow rules or deadlines. The connection I have with Helena is something unique, special. We complete each other. We support each other. We make each other happy." Helena, holding Ricardo's hand, added, "It's true, Dr. Augusto. What we feel for each other is real, genuine. We have overcome challenges, shared experiences, built a story together. Love found us in an unexpected way, but it couldn't be more true." Dr. Augusto, observing the complicity and genuine affection between the couple, began to question his own convictions. Could he be wrong? Could this unlikely love be as real as it seemed? He continued with his questions, trying to find loopholes in the couple's answers. But with each new question, Ricardo and Helena demonstrated more and more the strength of their relationship. They looked at each other with affection, exchanged knowing smiles, finished each other's sentences. Dr. Augusto, despite his skeptical nature, could not ignore the evidence before his eyes. The chemistry between Ricardo and Helena was undeniable. The love that emanated from them was palpable. He began to wonder if he wasn't being unfair, letting his own experiences and beliefs influence his judgment. At the end of the meeting, Dr. Augusto, visibly shaken, said goodbye to the couple with a nod and a thoughtful look. He needed time to reflect on everything he had seen and heard, to reassess his conclusions and make a fair decision. The fate of Ricardo and Helena was in his hands. Time flies when you're in love, and the 9 days that seemed like an eternity turned into a blink of an eye. The last day of the deadline set by Ricardo's grandmother arrived, bringing with it a mixture of anxiety and expectation. Ricardo and Helena, back at the Almeida family mansion after their eventful honeymoon, were preparing for the final confrontation with Dr. Augusto. They knew that the lawyer still had doubts about the veracity of their marriage and that the fate of their relationship was at stake. However, something had changed between them. The adventure they had experienced together, the challenges they had overcome, the emotions they had shared, had strengthened their bond in a way that not even the most skeptical of lawyers could deny. Ricardo, in his luxurious bedroom, was preparing for the meeting with Dr. Augusto, but his thoughts were far from legal and financial matters. He was thinking about Helena, her contagious smile, her strong personality, and her unconditional love. He had fallen head over heels for her, and he couldn't imagine his life without her. Helena, in her guest room, felt the same way. She thought about Ricardo, his generosity, his intelligence, and his capacity to love. She had found in him the man she had always dreamed of, and she didn't want to lose him for anything in the world. At the decisive moment, in front of Dr. Augusto and the entire Almeida family, Ricardo and Helena made a surprising declaration. They announced that, despite the initial agreement, they had truly fallen in love and wanted to remain married, not out of obligation or interest, but out of love. The couple's declaration caused a stir and surprise among everyone present. Dr. Augusto, finally convinced of the sincerity of their feelings, smiled and gave his blessing to the couple. The Almeida family, initially skeptical, surrendered to Ricardo and Helena's love, embracing them with joy and emotion. Ricardo and Helena, hand in hand, sealed their love with a passionate kiss, under the applause and tears of happiness from those present. They had overcome all obstacles, overcome all challenges, and proved that true love always finds a way. After the emotional declaration of love and the family's acceptance, Ricardo and Helena felt lighter than ever, as if they had taken a huge weight off their shoulders. The charade of marriage had turned into a true love story, and they were ready to start a new life together. To celebrate their victory over adversity and the beginning of a new phase, Ricardo organized a surprise party for Helena in the mansion's gardens. Bright lights decorated the trees, live music filled the air with romantic melodies, and a mouth-watering banquet awaited the guests. Friends, family, and even Dr. Augusto, with a rare smile on his face, gathered to celebrate the couple's union. Helena, radiant in a party dress hand-picked by Anya, danced with Ricardo under the starry sky, exchanging vows of love and plans for the future. From that moment on, Ricardo and Helena's life took a new direction. They moved to a cozy house, away from the spotlight and the hustle and bustle of the mansion, where they could build a home full of love, laughter, and companionship. Ricardo, once a lonely billionaire averse to commitment, became a dedicated and loving husband, always looking for new ways to surprise and delight his beloved. Helena, in turn, blossomed alongside Ricardo, discovering a strength and confidence she never knew she possessed. Together, they faced the challenges of married life, sharing joys and sorrows, dreams and achievements. They learned the importance of dialogue, respect, and mutual understanding, building a solid foundation for their relationship. Life for Ricardo and Helena after marriage wasn't just a bed of roses. They faced the challenges common to all couples, adapting to routine, differences of opinion, and the constant search for balance between personal and professional life. Ricardo, accustomed to a busy life full of commitments, had to learn to balance his work at the family business with his new role as husband and partner. He discovered the pleasure of sharing his daily life with Helena, of having someone to talk to, someone to share his joys and concerns with. Helena, in turn, encouraged Ricardo to dedicate himself to projects that brought him personal satisfaction, in addition to the family business. He became involved in social causes, supporting education and community development projects, and discovered a new passion for photography, capturing the beauty of the world through his lens. Helena also didn't leave her dreams behind. With Ricardo's support, she reopened the family restaurant, Helena's Corner, turning it into an absolute success. She dedicated herself to cooking with passion and creativity, creating dishes that delighted the most demanding palates. Together, Ricardo and Helena found a balance between their personal and professional lives, supporting each other in their careers and sharing each other's success. They built a life together full of love, accomplishments, and happiness, proving that unity is strength and that love is the secret ingredient to a fulfilling life. And so ends the story of Ricardo and Helena, an exciting journey that showed us that love can blossom in the most unexpected places and overcome any obstacle. But the stories don't stop there. If you were moved by this plot, get ready for many other adventures, romances, and twists here on the channel. What did you think of the ending of this story? What was the part that surprised you the most? And what kind of story would you like to hear next? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss any updates.